Hey Trailblazers, welcome back to the Declarative Academy. Today, we're going to unravel a fundamental topic in the Salesforce world, identity protocols. This video will take you through the Salesforce Trailhead module, Learn the Language of Identity, where you'll get to know how Salesforce ensures secure user access across different apps without needing to log in repeatedly. So, if words like SAML, OAuth 2.0, or OpenID Connect have you scratching your head, don't worry. We've got you covered. Let's dive right in. In today's module, we'll be covering several important areas that will help you understand how identity protocols work. By the end of this video, you'll know the role of industry standards in managing user identities securely, SAML Protocol, how SAML enables single sign-on, SSO, OAuth 2.0 Protocol, how OAuth helps apps share data securely, OpenID Connect Protocol, adding authentication for social sign-on, the difference between identity providers and service providers, and finally, we'll walk through the SAML flow for single sign-on to see how everything works behind the scenes. Before we get into the specifics of each protocol, let's start with the big picture. In today's world, users interact with tons of apps, services, and systems. The question is, how do we keep user identities secure while allowing them seamless access to all these services? That's where identity protocols come in. They make sure users don't have to log in to every single app they use. Imagine logging into Salesforce once and then hopping directly into Gmail or your company's internal apps without signing in again. That's the magic of single sign-on, SSO, powered by protocols like SAML, OAuth 2.0, and OpenID Connect. Let's break these protocols down one by one, starting with SAML. SAML is the protocol behind single sign-on. It allows users to access multiple apps without logging in again. For example, you're logged into Salesforce, and then, using SAML, you can open Gmail without needing to enter your credentials again. Here's how it works. Service provider and identity provider. When you access an app, like Gmail, the app is the service provider, and Salesforce acts as the identity provider. SAML assertion. Salesforce checks your identity and tells Gmail, yep, this person is authorized. It sends what's called an assertion, a little packet of data confirming your identity and any relevant details. This all happens in the background. Users never see it, but the process is happening in milliseconds. Cool, right? SAML uses XML, extensible markup language, to format these assertions. This format is readable by humans, so if something goes wrong, admins can troubleshoot by looking at the XML code. Next up is OAuth 2.0. While SAML is all about logging in and verifying identity, OAuth 2.0 is about data sharing between apps. Imagine you're in one app, like the Salesforce mobile app, but you can see data from another app like Google Contacts. That's OAuth 2.0 in action. Here's how it works. The apps perform a handshake to ask for permission to share data. The user might see a pop-up asking for authorization to share data between the apps. Once the user authorizes, the data flows seamlessly between the apps. A great example of OAuth 2.0 is when a Salesforce org pulls contact information from Google Contacts, or when a mobile app pulls Salesforce data into its interface. OAuth 2.0 ensures this happens securely. And now we have OpenID Connect, which builds on top of OAuth 2.0. It adds a layer of authentication, meaning it helps apps verify who you are. You've likely seen this in action with social sign-ins. Think log in with Google, log in with Facebook, or log in with LinkedIn. With OpenID Connect, users don't need to create new accounts and passwords. The identity provider, like Google or Facebook, handles the authentication, and the service provider, like a new app you're installing, trusts that verification. This is especially useful in today's world of social networks and apps, where you don't want to manage separate accounts for every service. Let's break down the difference between identity providers, IDPs, and service providers, SPs. These terms will pop up in conversations about identity all the time, so it's important to know what they mean. Identity provider, IDP. This is the system that verifies the user's identity. For example, Salesforce or Google acts as the identity provider when authenticating users. Service provider (SP). This is the system or app that receives the verified identity, like Gmail or a third-party app. Let's say you log into Salesforce and then click on the Gmail icon to access your email. In this case, Salesforce is the identity provider and Google is the service provider. Salesforce confirms your identity and passes that information to Google, allowing you to access your email without logging in again. If you're curious about how all this magic happens behind the scenes, here's a look at the SAML flow for single sign-on (SSO). The user tries to access a service, like Salesforce. Salesforce recognizes an SSO request and generates a SAML request. The browser redirects the request to the external identity provider. The identity provider verifies the user and sends a SAML assertion back. The user is authenticated and can now access the service. This entire process happens in milliseconds, making it feel like the user never left the app. Before we wrap up, here's a quick identity terminology cheat sheet to help you keep track of the key terms. First up, we have two terms that often get mixed up: authentication and authorization. Here's the difference. Authentication answers the question, "Who are you?" It's the process of verifying a user's identity. Authorization, on the other hand, answers, "What can you do?" It's about the permissions or access a user has once authenticated. Think of it like this. Authentication is your ID card proving who you are, while authorization is the key that lets you access certain rooms in a building. Next, let's clear up protocol and standard. Protocol is like a set of rules for how systems communicate and exchange data. Standard is the industry-approved specification that everyone follows, often incorporating protocols. For example, OAuth is a protocol, but OpenID Connect is a standard that builds on OAuth to specify how authentication is handled. Now, a common pair: username and password versus credentials. Username and password are what you typically use to log into a system. Credentials is just a broader term that includes the username, password, or even tokens and certificates used to authenticate. So, credentials can refer to multiple forms of authentication, not just your standard username and password. One more important distinction is between single sign-on, or SSO, and social sign-on. Single sign-on (SSO) allows users to log in once and then access multiple apps without re-entering credentials. Social sign-on lets you log into a service using a social media account like Google or Facebook. While SSO is often used within organizations, social sign-on is more consumer-facing, making it easier to log in using existing social profiles. And finally, let's compare identity provider and service provider. An identity provider is a service that verifies your identity and provides that verification to other services. A service provider is the application or service you want to access, and it accepts the identity information from the identity provider. For example, when you use Google to log into an app, Google is the identity provider and the app is the service provider. And that's a wrap. I hope this cheat sheet helps you feel more confident about using these identity-related terms. All right, let's put that knowledge to the test. Here's a quick quiz. Question 1. Which protocol allows secure data sharing between applications? A. OAuth. B. SAML. C. XML. D. OpenID Connect. The correct answer is A. OAuth. OAuth 2.0 ensures secure data sharing between apps, allowing you to see data from one app while working in another. Which of the following is true when Salesforce acts as an identity provider for an external application? A. A user authenticated in an external app can flow through to Salesforce. B. A user logged into Salesforce can flow through to the external app. C. Salesforce is using the IDP from an external org to authenticate to a Salesforce org. D. None of these. Salesforce can only act as a service provider. The correct answer is B. A user logged into Salesforce can flow through to the external app. When Salesforce is the identity provider, it allows users to access external apps. And that concludes the Learn the Language of Identity module. You now understand how Salesforce maintains secure access across applications through protocols such as SAML, OAuth 2.0, and OpenID Connect. Don't forget to verify your progress on Trailhead, earn those 100 points, and keep climbing. If you found this video helpful, give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the Declarative Academy for more Salesforce tips and tutorials. Happy trailblazing, and see you in the next video.